obviously I'm a teacher, and I decided to give a report card to the Congress right now. The Democrat Congress has had some time now, 9 months, and I think it's time to take an evaluation of how they've done. So I went through some grades here, and you might think, well, these grades are low, he's a Republican candidate for Congress. I tried to start off with a perspective that the Democrat viewpoint is going to be different, but I still think they've done absolutely nothing on the national debt. They've shown no concern for the national debt. It's at $22 trillion and rising right now, so an F on the national debt. Welfare reform, I think we have a huge opportunity for this. I know it's never been a Democrat mainstay, but we have so many Americans now with record low unemployment in 50 years that are still not working, and I think we need to transition from welfare to work. Nothing on this issue, so an F. Healthcare, I've given the Pelosi Congress a D. They have paid a lot of attention to prescription drug prices. I don't agree with all their solutions. I do agree with more choice in the market. I don't agree with some of the things they're trying to say on price control, but I give them some credit for raising the issue. They're still not ready to work with Republicans to get something done, so we've got a D on healthcare. Also affected by the fact premiums are rising overall. Obviously a blow to Democrats who support Obamacare, losing the mandate for Obamacare, but really no interest in trying to do some bipartisan work to improve health care, these rising premiums. National security, a D, it's a higher grade than my Fs. My thinking behind that was the Pelosi Congress, my rationale, has supported national defense budgets. They're obviously mixed on the border wall, which I consider a national security issue. And so I give them a D. I'm also disappointed with how the Pelosi Congress is dealing with Iran. Obviously, the president pulled out of the Iran deal. We'd expect some blowback from that, but I do think the Pelosi Congress should be more at arms for what Iran has done recently in terms of attacks on the United States ships and also on Saudi Arabia. And then finally, bipartisanship. There's still some opportunities here. We did have something done on opioids that was passed. We had some opportunities on transportation reform, some opportunities on prescription drugs, but we've seen just relentless attacks on this president. And now we're into what I think is an unwarranted impeachment, which I think is just, they were talking from day one. We want to impeach the president. We don't know on what charges. Now they're trying to drum up this phone call and turn it into impeachment. I don't think it should be. This is certainly not treason against the country. No crime has been committed. In Watergate and in the Clinton scandal, we saw a crime had been committed before we went forward with impeachment.
All right, let me zoom in a little bit closer on you. So obviously this, in your remarks and in your display here, Nancy Pelosi is prominent.
Yes.
I know in 2016, or rather 2018, a lot of Republican candidates very much ran against the specter of Nancy Pelosi.
Right.
It didn't seem to work out that great for them. They lost the House.
Right.
Do you think running against Nancy Pelosi is still a winning strategy for Republicans?
Well, I'm certainly in a Republican primary right now, so by June, when this primary is done, we'll know who the Democrat nominee is for president. I think a lot of the attention will go to that Democrat nominee and their platform, whether it's Warren, Biden, Sanders, or one of the others. Right now, the Democrat who has the most ability to lay out a vision for the country is Pelosi, and I don't think she's doing a great job at it. So that's why I'm giving this critique. As you know, I've always been the happy warrior, so I want to talk about issues, I want to debate issues, and I think we're laying out a reasonable critique here with this report card that, okay, some movement on healthcare, some movement on national security or some support for national security, but overall not what we would expect for the American people.
What report card would you give to President Trump, especially in the areas of national debt and national security? Do you think what grade would you give him?
So one, overall, I didn't have a report card for the last Congress. I would have had tax reform there. I would have had regulatory reform. Those are two things that the president would get high remarks with, and that's caused the economic boom. Other issues, national debt, I don't think either side, whether it be the president or the Republican Congress, have done enough to tackle that. I want to tackle that issue with the Grace Commission 2.0. Welfare reform, Paul Ryan did have a splendid plan on welfare reform. I don't think he led on it enough. The administration is pushing hard on welfare reform through executive order, trying to tighten work requirements. The administration is trying on healthcare reform to get more choices in the market. So I would give higher grades to the president on welfare reform and healthcare. certainly at least in the B range. National security, I'd give a higher grade as well. I know we're in a great national debate now. We're pulling out of Syria. What should we be doing? But overall, I think he's keeping America's interests first. And bipartisanship, I would say he has reached out. I know he's known for mixing it up with the other side, but he's offered to work on some things, on transportation, on the drug issues, but everything is just overshadowed by what I think is an unwarranted impeachment right now of the president, impeachment inquiry.
What are your feelings about Claudia Tenney entering the race?
Claudia Tenney blew a big Republican district. This is a district that voted Republican for governor by over 20 points, for President Trump by 16 points. It has 30,000 more Republicans in it. She lost the race here. I think Republican primary voters are going to remember that and say that she's not a very good bet for a rematch against Brindisi. I, on the other hand, almost beat Maurice Hinchey in a district with 43,000 more Democrats. It went for Obama by 20 points. We're a very sure bet against Brindisi if I'm the nominee. We're likely to regain the seat. If Tenney's the nominee, we're likely to lose the seat. She also had very low ratings with conservative groups in Washington. The American Conservative Union actually gave her an F on their report card. So I think that's important. That's something that primary voters need to know about with Claudia Tenney.
What exactly justified that F from the American Conservative Union?
The American Conservative Union had 10 votes that they scored, and she voted poorly 2 sessions in a row on the 10 key votes that they voted on. So one session she had a 64, one she had a 60. It's a variety of votes on social issues, on fiscal responsibility issues. She didn't do a great job of supporting the president on welfare reform, which he was pushing for, in my opinion. She didn't do a great job on the national debt, and had a lot of other poor votes in that report card that we're going to be educating voters on.
Now, do you suppose that as the campaign continues, your focus will still be on Pelosi, or do you think at some point your criticisms would be more directed at Brindisi?
Sure, I want to have debate with Brindisi. I don't think he's done enough on these issues as well here. But today, just to grab attention to the race, we're a long ways out, but we need people looking at this race and thinking about it. This is a big national race. This is the #1 race in the country because we lost a district that was so Republican. This is the district in the country with the most Republicans that went for the most with the Democrats sitting in Congress that went for Trump by the largest margin. It's this district right here. So we're the #1 race in the country. We want to draw attention to it, and I think a good way to do it is to critique Pelosi. Obviously, Brindisi is just one member in the Pelosi coalition here, but he has to be responsible for his actions, and I don't think he stood up enough on these issues as well. So I'll be talking about George Phillips's plans. I've talked about them a little bit here today. We want a Grace Commission 2.0, welfare to work, a dynamic market of choice for health care, a plan to crush drugs in Mexico, and I'll be willing to reach out to Democrats. It's a lot for one day in the press conference, but we're giving you snippets of the preview to come with this campaign.